Hey guys, what is up? Game Pizza Boy here. Welcome back to the Pizza Party. I hope we're doing fantastic today, guys. And in today's video, I am back for another Dead by Daylight video. Okay. Let me quickly mention some real quick. So, as you know, I used to do DBD content on the channel. I've done plenty of them before, talk about content, and I relate stuff and kind of gave my thoughts on everything. But I slowly started kind of losing interest of it over time, due to my mixed feelings about how I felt about the community, how the game was being handled over time. I did came back over time previously a few months ago last year and started making videos on some perk build ideas and stuff like that. Just want to have a little fun. But I once again was on a hiatus from the game again and just kind of backtracked on it again, of course, obviously, and just need some time away from it to hopefully wait until maybe the game gets better, obviously. But it looks like over time right now, DBD is slowly trying to get better with recent updates and patches and some planned health updates, and especially along with the released content such as the Tokyo Ghoul chapter, the release of the new Survivor Aurora Rose, and now with recently the announcement of the FNAF chapter, which will be including Springtrap as a new killer. Now, because of this, I've been thinking to myself that if the FNAF chapter does get announced as and shows its full content, I would probably start trying to really get right back into the groove again. And I feel like I want to try to do that because DBD generally, despite its own issues, I still love this game. And nevertheless, the game is slowly getting better over time with planned many big updates. And if you're read through the forums right now, they actually announced quite a bit of pretty good patches. I won't go over them all in this video, but I'll put in the link in the description below if you want to go check it out for yourself, of course. My main focus I want to talk about is specifically the PTB and enjoying Springtrap and trying out his power, his perks, the new map, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I just want to kind of go over that and discuss my thoughts on it and kind of give you guys my first impressions of it after playing it since the stream, and over time I'm enjoying the PTB off stream. So I just want to kind of discuss this with you guys, give you my personal opinion about it, and see what I think so far is going to be. And this will be kind of a first step in trying to get right back into DBD content in the future, which I will try to plan in the future. I might even try to do some other future content that's also within certain DBD lore. I'll relate stuff like ratings or certain tier lists and stuff like I've done before in previous games. So if you want to see that, feel free to support the channel. I appreciate that, of course, and I will make sure to try to get them out for you as quickly and soon as possible when I can, obviously. So let's get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and discuss to you everything about my thoughts on Springtrap since playing the PTB, and I will do everything in my power to explain my personal thoughts and opinions, so let's get right into it. Okay, let's kick things off with his power. I will go ahead and go through and break down everything you know about the power, and I will give you my first impressions when I got a chance to play him, of course, and play against him when I was testing this out on the PTB with one of my friends and my mods. So, let's begin. So, the power of the animatronic, aka Springtrap, aka William Afton, his power is called Fazbear's Fright, which is like a reference to, of course, Fazbear's Fright, the attraction from FNAF 3, which is pretty cool. And basically, what this power does for him allows you to basically, first of all, run two special things. One that's going to be affecting the entirety of the map. The second one is a special ability. So the special ability is called the Fire Axe, which allows, of course, the animatronic to be armed with a fire axe that he can use to throw at survivors. So basically a lot like the Huntress, but the difference between is that it's a little more, I guess, heavier in such a way. So you can try to aim high up and it will be thrown from a distance, but it will only go so littly far, pretty much. So it's not barely much as very quickly to go far enough like how the Huntress does with her axes, but it can still pretty reach if in certain distances if you aim pretty well when aiming high or whatever, of course. But you have this axe you can throw at survivors, and if it hits a survivor, they become embedded by the axe, meaning that the axe is now stuck on them. You'll notice as you'll look directly at a survivor, and you'll see them have an axe on behind their back, meaning now they have been embedded. When this happens, they're left vulnerable, which literally makes survivors, basically you can kind of say, broken, because survivors must remove the axe before they can be healed, which means no survivor can be able to get out of it unless, of course, they are removed of the axe and then they can get healed completely. So you need to remove it, obviously, to get it off you. But of course, there is a moment though that can happen if not careful for the survivors with the embedded of the axe. If Springtrap gets close to the survivor who's been embedded, they can hit a certain prompt by using the left mouse button for the attack button or whatever your button is on controller, and it will cause an animation to play out where Springtrap will lunge at them, grab them, take the axe off them, and just do a little jump scare and instantly put into the dying state, and they'd be instantly carried, which means it gives Springtrap a chance to go and take them to a hook. So it's a nice little way to kind of get a little bit range on survivors, to take them out, of course, and basically quickly get them off very easily if they're not very careful and you aim at them, similar to how the Huntress is. But the difference is that instead of just relying on it to get many hatchet shots as possible, this axe basically instead is used to help get them embedded, slow them down very easily so they can't be healed, and then allow Springtrap to go in there and do a nice little jump scare and take them out. Now, if you miss them, that's not all of them though, because if you miss them, it will actually end up on the ground or any place where it gets launched into, and it will start bringing out this aura around in the area of the axe. It will stay there until either some time has passed and will be automatically brought back to you, or unless you push the action button to then bring it back to you, of course. And while this is happening, if any survivor walks within the aura of the embedded axe on any surface that it lands on that's not on a survivor, they get killer instinct for the killer. So you still can reveal the survivor to you and just be caught very easily, of course. So you got to be very cautious when going near with the aura, because that means Springtrap can still find a way to catch up to you and take you out with his pizza knife, which is his main weapon for the entirety of the game. For my thoughts on the special ability of this fire axe, I think it's a really amazing, cool ability to add something like this, because even though it's somewhat copying off like a previous killer who has it, but it's still different in its own way. An ability which makes it where you can just throw this axe, embed it on a survivor, and just go in and lunge at them and just jump scare them is probably one of the most coolest aspects I've ever seen used in a killer, and I think they did pretty cool so far with this. And I think it's really helpful, the fact that even if you miss a survivor, if they just get caught within the aura of the axe that lands on the ground or whatever, you can still get kill instinct with them to keep an eye on them very easily. And then you could summon your axe back, of course, so you could try again and do it. So this will take some time and practice to kind of work on with different players, of course. So keep practicing with your aiming. If you're really good at Huntress, you probably won't have too much issue with aiming with Springtrap, of course, and just get in there and lunge them and just jump scare them. It's phenomenal with how they do this, and honestly, I'm pretty excited to see where this plays out more for different play styles people will do for the rest when the animatronic does come out in the live mode for DBD. Now, that's not all of it yet though, because there is still one other thing to mention, and it's this map feature, which is the security system. And this is probably one of the most coolest things I've ever seen being used, honestly, for a killer right here. That really is pretty cool. And what this map feature does, it will spawn 7 security doors and spawn them randomly throughout the map. There will be 7 total, all marked with a number blood stain on the door. And basically, these doors can be accessed by both survivors and the animatronics. If a survivor interacts with a door, they have a choice to look at it first and look at its cameras, and it allows them to see the cameras attached to each door, and interact with them will allow you to use it to then look around the map, cycle through them, and see where everyone else is if you can. And you can even try to spot Springtrap through the doors, and if you stare in for too long, it will actually reveal the killer of Springtrap to every other survivor for a few seconds with a white aura. So it adds a nice little incentive to kind of keep an eye out where the killer is, and give a little nice little idea to help those keep an eye out on where the killer is, obviously, of course, and be able to watch it closely. But that's not all. Survivors can access the door to then also traverse to other doors. If you use the camera and aim at a certain door you want to go to and push the action button in mind, you will then walk through the current door you're interacting with and go through the security room, like from the first FNAF game, to get from one door to the other and enter the next door from the other side of the map. So you could be at like door 1, and then the other side is like door number 5 across the map somewhere outside by like the shack, and you can use it to then just take it right over there, and you're now, boom, across the map, adding a traversal kind of way, which is kind of similar to like how teleporting like Demogorgon or how Xenomorph does when traversing the underground area of the map. But this time it can be worked with survivors too, besides the killer. However, though, there is some things that makes the killer have a much better chance at using these doors than survivors. Survivors, however, though, gotta be mindful though, because when using the cameras and using the doors, they drain battery power that's built into each door. If the battery power reaches 0, the doors will remain locked for survivors, and they will not be able to access it, nor the cameras. So they can't enter it for some time or use the cameras until the batteries have fully recharged, which will take some time. The killer hour, though, Springtrap, can still interact with these doors even without the worry about battery power, and can still go through it. When this happens, though, of course, they can traverse it like same as usual and can enter it from one place to another to sneak up. But also, when Springtrap uses the doors, he will also gain the undetectable status effect, similar to like how Xenomorph does and Demogorgon does when entering and exiting out of a portal, allowing him to basically easily traverse and get around very easily to hopefully sneak up and take out survivors. Another thing that can also happen, though, by the way, is that if the animatronic Springtrap enters the security room and enters it while a survivor also traverses it, there's a chance that, of course, that when that happens, you will also get a cutscene play that will cause Springtrap to immediately take out the survivor and put them in the dying state and carry them and when they exit out of the doorway. There's some animations that are pretty cool. I've been seeing people test out, including myself, that I think is pretty awesome to add to the whole jump scare vibe of Springtrap. And I think it's one of the most coolest things imaginable, especially showing that you got to be on your toes when you use the doors. Because if you're not careful and you just go in the security room as a survivor, you could just end up just getting caught right by Springtrap completely. It is pretty crazy. As for my thoughts with the security system, I think it's one of the most unique things, right? Because even though, like I said, it will take aspects of many things we've seen previous killers almost have done, but it's so cool in a way that it just seems pretty unique. Cameras that could be used to help out survivors keep an eye on where the killer is, which also quickly mentioned, Springtrap can also destroy them too by throwing the axe at them. So be mindful. Even he could break cameras, which will be temporary off for some time, of course. But these cameras are really helpful to kind of keep an eye out everywhere on the map, and just gives that same vibe what FNAF has done for the past first 3 games. But still, it's really cool and unique just for DBD standards. And the traversal area of getting around, especially for both Springtrap and the survivors, is really cool, especially the animation that plays when entering into the security room. It's just, the vibe of it is pretty amazing and just fits Springtrap very well. And I think they did a fantastic job with it, especially the fact when they add aspects of the jump scares. It is really, really cool. And I honestly just love it. It's really amazing, of course. It is truly amazing. And I just think it's awesome. I think it's really cool, honestly, that fits in very well. And overall, the entirety of the power is really amazing. I just love the jump scare aspects. I love the axe, what it can do, especially with the embedding and trying to grapple and lunge on the survivors when you get close to them when they've been embedded by axe, and the use of the doors. It's just really phenomenal. And I think definitely there's a future to behold for the future when the animatronic gets released in the live update for the game's for the chapter's release. So pretty exciting for that. It's honestly wonderful. Though I will say, though, that I have also encountered some bugs that kind of do with it. Like sometimes I feel like maybe the animations have caused certain survivors' faces to act a little bit weird. There was even one bug where one of my friends got stuck in one of the doors when teleporting when I went through, and they got stuck. Like they got completely stuck and they couldn't get out. And they couldn't get out whatsoever. And we had to reset the custom games when we were testing it out, of course. So there is definitely some work that needs to be done, of course, but nevertheless, I still think it's really amazing, and I think it's a pretty cool power to look forward to, and it's gonna be really awesome to see what kind of play style we can go for this for the future, especially as this chapter gets released. Now, moving on now is the killer perks. So let me do the killer perks. I'll be discussing all 3 of them, of course. I'll give you my thoughts on each and every one of them, and then I'll also rate them from like what I think is the most weakest from top 3 from each perk. So I'll go through them all and give you guys my thoughts on them, of course. The first perk is called Help Wanted. This perk makes it where whenever you damage a generator, it becomes compromised. When that generator then is completed while it's compromised, which you'll obviously, I think, be highlighted in, I think, a yellow, if I remember, because I think it was highlighted to me when I did it, of course. But obviously, once that generator is completed, you will gain a successful basic attack cooldown of around 25% faster for about 60 seconds. So basically, think this like a combination of I would say machine learning, like how that perk gives you undetectable and also haste for a certain time. But instead, you are basically given the ability to use this for basic attack cooldowns, which is pretty cool, honestly. It's basically like having that perk along with save the best for last. So basically, it's like having machine learning, that one perk from the Singularity, where it's a combination of basically the haste and undetectable when a generator is complete for a certain amount of time. It's like that, but this time it works like almost like save the best for last, where you get like a cooldown reduction for basic attacks whenever you successfully hit someone right there, which is pretty cool. It's 25% and it lasts for a minute, so you get a whole minute of using this, and it's pretty crazy to use this stuff. I can imagine combining this. I think it's a really good perk, honestly, and I like the idea just to give you quick basic attacks, which can come in handy for someone like Springtrap, because obviously he's going to be relying on that in case he misses axe, and he is, you know, throwing his axe a lot, so it can kind of come in handy. And I especially can find this pretty good for some like other like M1 killers like Trapper, Ghost Space, or something like that. This could really come in handy for sure, and I cannot wait to test this out on some certain builds in mind. The next perk is called Phantom Fear, and what this perk does is whenever a survivor stares directly at you within your terror radius, they will immediately scream, and their aura will be revealed to you for 2 seconds, and the perk goes on a 60-second cooldown. Personally, to me, I think this is a really meh perk in my opinion, though, because the fact that it's only 2 seconds for someone to stare at you while within their terror radius is kind of pretty iffy to me, honestly, and not to mention it has a very extensive cooldown. I personally have my thoughts on this, which I'll explain in my rating in just a moment, but I think it's not really one of the best perks in my opinion, though, and I think it's on Springtrap, and I think it definitely needs to get some buff for sure, and I'll explain my thoughts on what I feel like, of course, but definitely let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or not, and if you guys have any ideas what they should change Phantom Fear for, if it has to be that way, so we'll see how that goes. Haywire, the final perk right here. This perk is kind of an end-game perk right here, and what this does, it will allow you to make it where exit gate switches that hit at least 50% of progress or more will start regressing at a rate of 50% of the gate's opening speed. While they are regressing, survivors then will see the exit gate lights flicker randomly, indicating that their progress is now being regressed because of said perk right there. I think this is a situational perk again, because like obviously this is going to be for end game, so you're probably not going to find use out of it until you reach end game. So I can see this being used again if you're using like an end game build, obviously, but nevertheless, that's pretty much what I kind of see it for. The idea of a regression for exit gates is pretty nice. I don't think there was anything of a regression to progress with opening exit gates besides simply like Remember Me, which helps slow down, reduce the amount of time it takes for everyone else but the Obsession or something like that, or No Way Out that blocks it, of course. So there's some pretty good ideas right there. So this is nice to kind of see something a little bit different for endgame, and I'd like to see more endgame perks kind of rolling like this, so we can just try maybe some builds in mind that could be pretty fun idea. Maybe they'll hopefully reduce the idea of using other related endgame perks like Bloodborne or No Ed or something like that, and just try to, you know, figure out some cool ideas with that. So alright, so now to rate all the perks, what do I think about each and every one of my rate? Well, first, let me start with the third and the weakest perk. In my opinion, the weakest is, of course, Phantom Fear. Phantom Fear, just to me, 2 seconds of aura reading with anyone within your terror radius, especially when they look at you, is going to be pretty rare and honestly kind of boring in my opinion, though, and not great compared to other aura reading perks you can run to help you out make it better. Just kind of reminds me of one of the Aurella's perks, which is similar to that with Exhaustion. Just 2 seconds, and it's very short, and for something very niche or something like that. So I really think it's just not worth it, in my opinion, for someone like this. So I feel like it's a very weak perk. I feel like they should buff this. Either buff it to like 4 seconds, so it's a little more right there, and because usually if I can imagine if you put on Lethal Pursuit where it could be just 6 seconds pretty much, but 4 seconds just to me is good enough, or maybe reduce the cooldown probably too as well, maybe reduce it to like 40 or if not 30 seconds at least. I can imagine that'd be good right there. Again, I just feel like either way the cooldown or increasing the time it takes would probably make it a little bit better, because again, I just think this is one of the weaker perks. Haywire takes my second slot right here because it's still a pretty good perk in some ways. I like the idea of aggression to opening gates, so that's really nice. But I also say this in second because it's situational and it's mostly for endgame builds, so I don't see people many running it unless they want to do an endgame build. So that's where I will put that for sure. In first place, I give it the Help Wanted. It's basically save the best for last, but combined with machine learning when using and damaging a generator, and that generator gets completed when it's been compromised. I like the idea of this, of getting a little basic cooldown that lasts for a minute. I do want to see some build ideas coming up. I want to see where this plays out. I might try some builds a little bit more in the future, of course, and test this out, especially when it comes out. So I think there's definitely some plans to see what they got ideas for. And it's pretty fast. It is pretty fast indeed, so I cannot wait to see where this goes. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think this is going to be a really good group of perks, and I think Help One is probably the #1 pick in my honest opinion. All right, moving on next is, of course, the new map, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. which is a new map. It's going to be obviously has like an outside grassy like area, similar to like Greenfield Square, basically similar design right there. And also it's going to have Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is kind of a combination of both, similar to the movie and even the game, since it has like a similar structure to that. So let me go over it real quick and give you guys my personal thoughts and opinions about the situation right there. I gotta say, I think this is going to be one of the best maps to enjoy. I actually really love it. The outside's kind of boring a little bit. Obviously, it's what you expect. Just typical grassy-like area with tons of obstacles and its own stuff to kind of get around, loop, and drop pallets. But the inside is where it's at. You will find tons of references to the movie and the games. You could see Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica up on stage, which if you, with a survivor powers on the generator in the middle, it will turn the, obviously, the stage on and let them do a little acting right there, which is pretty cool. There's Foxy. Well, Foxy's not there technically. He's like hiding somewhere behind like the, I think, the sheets and by this boxes with a little stuffed Foxy plushie on top, referencing him with the out of order sign from the games, of course. There's the obviously the cool kitchen where they cook the food. Obviously, there's the arcade game and the ball pit from Into the Pit, which is pretty cool reference right there. The backstage area, it is really wonderful and pretty cool. And obviously, there's no sign of the security room to the full extent right there. That's only because the security room is now being used for the power within Springtrap, of course. So there's that kind of stuff that happens right too. But nevertheless, the many cool things about it, of its references to the game and the movie, and just seeing the models of Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica up there is honestly pretty dope. And I think they did a fantastic job showing off the map. It's so detailed, it's colorful, it's beautiful, and it just has a lot going on. I think it's a very wonderful sight of what a licensed map looks like. I haven't seen this like much greater detail and keeping things accurate, if not very beautiful, since like probably the Resident Evil chapter that was released, or the Nostromo map that was released during the Alien chapter, or Silent Hill, Midwich High School, which is pretty cool. There was a lot that has gone through this, and honestly, it is pretty wonderful how they done with the details, and I'm very fascinated by it. I think they did a fantastic job. I think there's a lot to look forward to for this map, honestly, and it will add some pretty cool moments. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of pretty cool Easter eggs to discover, which, hey, I mean, if you guys want me to do a video on that, I might do that probably in the future. Maybe I'll go through, do research of my own, since I love looking at the lore a lot, so maybe I might make a video of this and go through each of them and see what everything referenced to, and just look at all the details and just kind of give some pointers, basically, whether it's referencing something or just something that just seems popping out, of course. So yeah, definitely, I think the map is pretty good. I think they did a fantastic job. All right, with that being said, let me go in and give you my overall opinion about what I think about this PTB for the release of Springtrap, and also the new map and the perks right now and everything else. Overall, I think this has been a pretty good start somewhere, despite probably some very issues that were happening with the servers when people were getting on. But nevertheless, I think they did a fantastic job with everything they did so far. Springtrap is shaping up to be a really wonderful license killer that will probably really explode with many new players and veteran players alike, such as myself, coming back to the game and playing it and enjoying this new killer. I think he's going to be a fun addition. He's going to have some more fun ideas, and I think it's going to be really cool to see where it plays out. I really love about him is just, again, his security system power, where you just go through the doors and you catch people off guard if they're going to the security room at the same time as Springtrap, or just anything like that. I think they just did a fantastic job, and I think there is a lot to look forward to for the future with this chapter right here when it comes out. His perks definitely all very much good in their own way. They are situational situations right there, but I think definitely they can be pretty good. I just hope they buff Fan of Fear, in my opinion, though. I think that does definitely need to be buffed, obviously. And the new map, oh my god, the new map is just wonderful. I really love the new map. I think they did a fantastic job with the new map. I think it's going to be a really awesome to play on it, and just really just enjoy. The detail is wonderful, and I think it's going to be really fun. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be something to look forward to, and yeah, I'm pretty excited. I cannot wait to see where this plays out more with the new map. But overall, if I have to rate each and every one of them, here's how I'll rate all of them. So far, when it comes to the Springtrap and his power, I got to give it pretty much honestly, in my opinion, a solid 10 out of 10. While there is some issues with it that will need to be worked on, I really do enjoy the power. I genuinely enjoy it. I think it's going to be fun to go against him and playing as him, and it's just going to be really fun. I cannot wait to see this more action live, and hopefully things will be smooth sailing for sure when playing as him. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. I think it's gonna be a really fun power for sure. For his perks, I gotta give it probably an 8 out of 10. Plenty of his perks can be pretty good, although one of them definitely I think again still needs a buff, Phantom Fear. But many of them, one situational, one that I think is probably his best. I think they're all pretty good in their way and that could be used for certain builds in mind. And Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, 10 out of 10. Again, I think they did a fantastic job with the detail of the map. They kept it right to what Scott wanted and made sure it was just right to make it feel like you're like entering Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So, yeah, I think they did a good job with this, and I'm pretty proud of that, and I'm looking forward to probably get this chapter when it does come out. So, big hype indeed. Big hype. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, definitely let me know by hitting the like button. Comment below and tell me your thoughts. If you've been trying the PTB, are you excited for this chapter? What things were you expecting most? What else things are you excited that I didn't mention in this video? Is there anything else in particular that you want to look forward to with this FNAF chapter, or anything else in the future that could be added on to it? And of course, if you want to show your support to the Pizza Party, make sure you subscribe and show your support here. I would appreciate that, of course, enjoying the Pizza Party, obviously. Also, guys, if you want to keep in touch whenever I go live over here on YouTube, or check me out on Twitch or Kick, or follow me on my other platforms, or come join my Discord server, you guys can also go to the multi-link in the description below, and you'll have access to all that right there. So check me out on all my supporting right there, and feel free to, if you want to, be my guest. With that being said, guys, thank you all for joining in so much. I'm your host, Game Pizza Boy, host of the Pizza Party. I'll talk to you guys later for all more fun things of DBD, Marvel Rivals, and other forms of content in the near future. So I look forward to hopefully getting back to more Dead by Daylight in the near future. So I'm looking forward to it. I hopefully can try to get my plan to get back to more content for this game in the future, because I think genuinely the game will hopefully slowly get better over time. So I can't wait. All right, everyone, take care, my friends. Peace.